Have you ever heard of the Bagman? They say he lurks in the shadows, always on the lookout for disobedient children. But what would you think if I told you that for decades, parents and grandparents in Brazil used fear of him as a warning dark figure that shows up when you least expect it? Imagine hearing footsteps in the dead of night, the sound of a heavy sack being dragged, and feeling that chill run down your spine. Some swear they've seen him, while others think it's just a story made up to keep kids in line. But what if the Bagman really exists? What if the shadow you think is just a tree at night, or the wind blowing through empty streets, is actually him, watching you? In this video, we'll dive into the mystery of this Brazilian urban legend, explore its origins, hear chilling accounts, and try to answer that question everyone asks. Is the Bagman just a myth or something more real than we want to believe? Get ready, because some stories, once told, never leave your mind. Before anything else, it's important to understand the context in which the Bagman came to be. Unlike many urban legends that are born in movies or books, he comes from the streets, the homes, and Brazilian oral tradition. For decades, parents and grandparents told stories about this dark figure as a way to keep children obedient, using fear as a tool for discipline. But what's really striking is how such a simple story managed to cross generations, staying alive to this day. It's not just a tale of terrors, also a reflection of ancient human fears, concerns over disobedient children, and perhaps the need to explain the unexplainable. According to some historical accounts, the Bagman first appeared in Brazil in the early 20th century, although similar versions exist in other countries. In France, for example, there's the croque-mitaine, and in Spain, the hombre del seco, literally the same name. This shows how certain stories, despite being shaped by different cultures, carry universal fears. The fear of the unknown, the darkness, and someone or something that takes us when we're not paying attention. In Brazil, however, the Bagman gained its own traits. He's described as a tall man, hooded or with his face hidden, carrying a large, heavy sack, ready to capture those who don't follow the rules. What's most fascinating is that, over time, the legend adapted to local culture. In some regions, he only appears at night. In others, people say the Bagman roams empty streets, always silent, watching every step. Some versions claim he only takes naughty children or those who disobey their parents. Others say he's ruthless, and no one knows what happens to those who end up in his sack. This ambiguity between real and imagined, threat and moral lessons, what keeps the legend alive. And it's precisely this mix of mystery, fear, and moral lesson that makes the story of the Bagman so enduring. He isn't just a frightening figure. He is a cultural symbol, representing the limits society tries to impose, and the fear of disobedience or venturing alone into the unknown. Every empty street, every unexpected shadow, every strange sound can be interpreted as a sign of his presence. And that's what keeps both children and adults on edge even today. In the next segment, we'll dive deeper into the legend itself. We'll share chilling stories, different versions of what might happen to those who cross paths with the Bagman, and you'll see how. Even though it's an old tale, it can still send shivers down your spine when heard at night, alone or in silence. The legend of the Bagman isn't just a story told to scare children. It shows up in details that seem to leap from the shadows into reality. According to old accounts, the Bagman appears mainly at night, when darkness covers the streets and silence becomes absolute. Some say he walks slowly, almost floating, dragging his heavy sack along sidewalks and alleys. Others claim he is invisible, and only the sound of fabric tearing or the metal clasp of the sack reveals his presence. And in every version, there's always a sense of imminent danger, as if something is about to happen, even if you can't see a thing. There are stories that have been lost over time but still circulate in small towns and villages. One tells of a child who disobeyed the rule of staying indoors at night. Upon returning, the gate was closed, and through the window the child saw a hooded shadow slowly walking with a huge sack on its back. The child never disobeyed again, but the fear didn't go away according to some. The Bagman was only testing obedience, and the experience left marks no one could erase. Another chilling account comes from urban legends told by adults who, as children, heard suspicious footsteps near their homes but could never locate the source. Some describe the sack carried by the man as always being full of something undefined. Some believed it held stolen objects, others that it contained what he took from disobedient children. Popular imagination, of course, filled in the details, making the Bagman an even more terrifying figure, a being who could appear at any moment, silently, and whom no one could stop. The suspense of the legend is heightened by the fear of the unknown. Unlike monsters that attack or creatures hiding in horror films, the Bagman works subtly. He doesn't need to chase his victim. Fear alone is enough. That's the essence of his terror. Uncertainty. The constant doubt over whether he's real or just a product of imagination. Every night noise, every shadow in the hallway, every creaking door can be interpreted as his approach. And it's precisely this ambiguity between reality and myth that makes the legend so powerful and enduring. Over the years, the figure of the Bagman has also evolved. In some modern versions, he isn't just a warning for disobedient children, but a symbol of the fear of the unknown that we all carry. The idea of someone watching, waiting, and taking those who slip up becomes, in a way, a reflection of our own anxieties, fear of punishment, and insecurities. Been this way. The Bagman transcends generations, staying present in conversations, in stories told around campfires, and even in the silent nights when imagination seems to come alive. It's precisely in the climax of the legend that the Bagman becomes truly terrifying. Over the decades, chilling accounts have emerged from people who swear they've encountered him, and not just talking about frightened children, but adults who, even years later, cannot forget the experience. In small towns, some residents tell stories of footsteps or whispers in the middle of the night, accompanied by the sound of something being dragged. Many claim to have looked out the window and seen a tall shadow carrying a large sack, pausing for a moment as if surveying the entire house before disappearing into the darkness. Some say the bagman doesn't only choose naughty children, but anyone who finds themselves vulnerable. One popular account tells of a young man walking alone down a deserted street who felt a silent presence behind him. When he turned around, there was no one, only the distant sound of a sack being dragged. The feeling of being watched by something invisible stayed with him for weeks, and he swears he never walked alone at night again. But is any of this real? The uncertainty is exactly what keeps the legend alive. Some researchers and historians argue that the bagman is merely a metaphor, a creation of the human mind to explain fears and behavior. Others believe that, even as a symbolic figure, he manifests in inexplicable ways in deserted streets, in the shadows of an alley, in sounds that no one can identify. And it's precisely this uncertainty that makes each story even more terrifying. You never know when you might cross paths with him, or whether what you heard and saw at night was just your imagination, or something far more real. The fact is, over decades, the figure of the bagman continues to send shivers down our spines, stirring unease and fascination. Each account, each whisper, each story passed down from generation to generation adds layers to the legend, keeping its mysteries and fears alive. The question that remains, in the end, is simple but impossible to answer for sure. What if the bagman really exists? What if that shadow you think is just a tree or the wind blowing past is actually him, watching you silently and patiently, ready to strike? The bagman isn't just a story meant to scare children. He's a reflection of the fears we all carry, the shadows we imagine in deserted streets, and the noises that seem to come out of nowhere. He reminds us that even in a modern world, some figures persist through time, hiding in traditions, in stories told by elders, and in whispers passed down from generation to generation. Maybe he's just a metaphor for the fear of disobedience, or venturing alone into the unknown. Or maybe he's something that really walks silently through dark nights, watching, patient, waiting for the right moment to act. What makes the bagman so fascinating is exactly this doubt. Is he real, or just a product of imagination? Every account, every step heard at night, every shadow interpreted as a threat, keeps the legend alive and makes us keep asking, what if he really exists? What if that feeling that someone is watching you as you walk alone, or the strange sound of a sack being dragged, is more than just your mind playing tricks? It's this mystery, this uncertainty, that makes the fear so intense and the story so irresistible. Now, after hearing these tales, think, would you have the courage to walk down deserted streets at night, knowing that somewhere the bagman could be lurking? Or would you look into the darkness and feel that chill down your spine, imagining he could be right there, silent and relentless? What we do know is that, myth or reality, He remains present in the collective imagination, in stories told around campfires, in the whispers of parents and grandparents, and even in the little shivers we feel when the night seems to stretch longer than usual. If this story made your heart race, if the suspense set your imagination running, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Here on Urban Secrets, we reveal the mysteries that walk the line between the real and the imagined, bringing legends, stories, and secrets that defy understanding. And remember, every shadow, every sound, every story could just be the beginning. And the next mystery might be closer than you think.